All right. Blues win. Blues win. Blues win. Game 7, Sunday night in Winnipeg. What a game. What a win. It's what we expected from here on home ice. They got it done. They chased Hellebuck for the third time this series. And what we can hope we can say that we wish we definitely could have said a few games ago was, hey, this is the momentum of the Blues. This is all them. It's in their control. We thought it after game 4, after game 4, didn't really have it. I think they have it now, for sure.
It does feel like the momentum is back in the Blues' favor. Nick Gilbert in the chat saying Welcher called it. Dude, I was close. They had me at the end of the second period. I thought we were going to get the 6-1 prediction. That was crazy. But I did say on the post game last time it was going to be a blowout win because I know what this fan base means to this team and showing out for them at Enterprise Center, which was absolutely rocking with John Gruden in the house, getting the boys fired up with his Be the Nightmare t-shirt on. He was doing pregame speeches on stage at the power-up party before the game even, and that got me fired up. So the boys had to come out with some energy, and they looked a little bit shaky at first, but by God, when they started to turn it on in the second period, we know with this team, the goals come in bunches, and that was absolutely the case tonight. That's why I thought it was going to be a blowout. Jordan Binnington nails as usual. It's what you can rely on. It's what you can depend on. Connor Hellebuck, the exact opposite, gets chased again for the third time in this series. Winnipeg fans, are you going with Comrie next game, or are you going back to Hellebuck? There's a lot of things shaky right now, but I will say if you go with Hellebuck and he loses Game 7, I think there's going to be a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans that are thinking internally, is this guy worth the contract if he's just stacking up all these Vezina trophies, gets you to the playoffs, and then consistently loses in the first round? I'm just saying, there's a lot of things going on here. Time to wake up. In the chat says Cam Fowler has been such a great pickup. Dude, not a single player in the entire playoffs right now has more points besides Cam Fowler, except for Connor McDavid. So it's Connor McDavid and then Cam Fowler right under him. And you literally brought the guy in the middle of the season, pulled him from a struggling Ducks team and said, hey, we think you're the missing piece for us. We think you'd be, a viable piece for the St. Louis Blues team, not just down the stretch, but for the playoffs. And he has been everything you would want in a defenseman and an offensive defenseman, jumping up into the play consistently. That's what this Blues team lives and dies on, and we saw it with Philip Broberg getting things started in the first period. But my God, what a performance from the Blues! What a performance from the fans with the Connor chants just incessantly, even when he's out of the game, saying we want him. He's sitting in the locker room with his little headphones on, rocking back and forth as the walls are shaking, just screaming get back out here, coward. I love it, dude, and I think the national media loves it too, and we're getting attention from them, which is always good to kind of, portray us and showcase us as the hockey town that we are, the heartland of hockey. So I feel like we live and die in sports. I certainly do. I felt like I was shaking that entire game, even with 30 seconds left. I was like, there's still a chance that they could come back, because we've seen it all. But really, it does feel like the ball is back in the Blues court. It does feel like they have the momentum going into Game 7. Even though they haven't won in Winnipeg yet, Connor Hellebuck looks shaky. And if you've taken the pressure of a playoff series and amplify that in a Game 7 scenario, which we saw him, I wouldn't say struggle in Four Nations, but he didn't win, right? And that's technically a Game 7 scenario. And Jordan Binnington put on a clinic in the Four Nations, and he's been outplaying Hellebuck so far, so I'm expecting him to do that in Game 7 as well. That's my prediction, is the Blues. If the Blues win, and I think that they're going to, it'll be because Connor Hellebuck, because Jordan Binnington stands on his head and wills them to victory. Lock it in right now.
Easily. Thank you for joining us here on YouTube and also on Twitter or on X, here tonight. Just a reminder, this is Blues Hub Sports Game presented by Hot Shots, which here on Sports Hub STL, which is sponsored by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Let's open up this game with, I think, the best way you can put it. It was a good start to the game. kind of seemed a little slow, got the first goal, but the response, the second period, after the worst second period they played almost probably all season,
Yep.
last game, they respond with the best second period we probably have ever seen them play in years. It was beautiful. They got the scoring going in flurries. They were just chasing Hellebuck. Even though he didn't get pulled until after the game or after the period, it certainly felt like he could have gone a lot earlier. And obviously, the only goal that happened in the third was the Niederreiter goal. But, I mean, the Blues knew it was practically done after that. And they put it in cruise control, and yet still, I thought, defensively played well. The Jets they were all over the place. I thought they still had a lot of issues trying to keep it clean, like they did the last two games here in St. Louis. So it's gonna be a fun game 7. But man, that second period, what a response by the Blues after a rough, not just second period, but rough game back on Wednesday.
Absolutely. And I think that's my biggest takeaway was, we talked about game to game adjustments and what can you do to make those adjustments. And I think that was my biggest fear in this second period, because Winnipeg came out and really scored on the power play right away. Right. So, and I don't know if I agreed with that power play either. And, next thing you know, they score immediately on it. So it's like, God, here we go. Like, kind of like we talked about on the last post game, like the last thing you want to do is for the refs to get their fingerprints on this game. Like they're there to like control it, not really affect the game. And I'm like, if they end up affecting this game and giving the Jets momentum, that's going to suck. And, a lot of teams, I think, Jets fans might want to, punch me in the face for this, but I feel like I will put the Jets in that category. Like discipline in the playoffs is a huge deciding factor. And I think this Blues team, as we're seeing it right now, also, yeah, I'm seeing chat talking about Dr. Monty. That was hilarious. I saw that on the broadcast. But this Blues team, as it is right now, I think is more disciplined in terms of nerves, in terms of, post whistle scuffles, in terms of slashing people, in terms of getting your wires crossed, all that stuff. I think they're more disciplined right now than the Winnipeg Jets. And in a 7-game series with these games, with the series as close as it is right now, that could potentially be the deciding factor as well. And I think what we've seen from this Jets team so far is that if you get up 2 goals, up 3 goals on them, like the game's over. Like until they show me otherwise, like they just completely collapse, whether it's Hellebuck, whether it's Stanley trying to take liabilities on guys, whether it's Lowry, whether it's, I think Tanev went after Falk when he was in the middle of a scrum tonight. So it's like, they're all great players. They're here for a reason. They're in the playoffs for a reason. They won the President's Trophy for a reason. But when the lights shine the brightest, you got to be held accountable, not only for your play and your talents, but for your mentality too. And I don't know that their mentality is keeping them disciplined and keeping them in these games after they go down by multiple goals. And until they show me otherwise, like I said, they could very well come out in game 7 and show me, like, if we go up 2 goals and they win 3-2, tip of the cap, like, hey, you proved me wrong. Congratulations. But I think that's the key for the Blues in game 7. Jordan Binnington staying on his head. Big game Binnington. I'm going to push that nickname until it catches on, because that is awesome for him. Big game Binnington doing what we know he does best, showing up when the lights are the brightest, is my number 1 point for game 7. Number 2 point is get a multi-goal lead, whether it's 2, whether it's 3. Just crush this Winnipeg Jets team spirit, and I don't think they're going to claw their way back into it.
Talking about right there, angry Dr. Monty is my spirit animal. That's the best way I was put. Bring up the furiousness that he showed. Typically, you see that on a blatantly bad call or a tough goal. This was on a kind of a stupid play where an unsportsmanlike was handed out. Obviously, Shen still gets one, but I mean, he's screaming his head off because he's understanding. This is watching out for his player. I mean, this is a 4th line guy, and he's screaming his head off with Toropchenko. And he's passionate about making sure that his team is still in the fight, being allowed to fight as hard as the Jets are trying to. I mean, you love to see it. You really do.
So here's, okay, I do think I have an explanation for what happened there. that makes a lot of sense in my mind, right? So chat's talking about it too. It looked like, from what I was seeing on Twitter, that Braden Shen was sitting on the bench chirping his brother, right? Braden Shen. Meanwhile, so they're like this, right? On either ends of the bench. Meanwhile, referee is over here talking to Monty about the penalty that just happened, right? So Shen and Shen are screaming at each other over the referee while the referee's talking to Monty. The good thing about us being on YouTube is that we can cuss, right? So I can go up with this like explicit, right? So our Braden Shen is yelling at Luke Shen, hey, like, you fucking suck, right? The referee in the middle is like, what did you just say to me? And then rings them up for a penalty and sends them to the box. And I think that is why Monty goes, whoa. He wasn't talking to you. He was talking to his brother. And by that time, the ref's like, hey, man, I already called the penalty. There's nothing I can do. I like that, in my mind, makes the most sense to me, because to what Chad is saying, why you would not let brothers chirp each other on the ice makes no sense, you know? So I think, in my mind, that scenario is exactly what played out. I'm no John Boy. I'm not doing lip reading, but that makes the most sense to me.
We'll see if we get a John Boy video following that. Just a reminder, Ethan Hannaford, Brendan Schaffer will be joining us from Enterprise Center later on in the show, giving us a little bit of a look into a little bit of how the arena was today in the game. Obviously, it was rocking, probably louder than it probably ever has, considering that also, you know, the Cardinals and the Battlehawks are at home. Cardinals just wrapped up, Battlehawks still in the fight, and Enterprise Center was easily the loudest place probably this entire spring by far tonight. And it was, oh my gosh, you could hear it through the TV. We'll ask Brendan and Ethan when they hop on about it. I mean, we could feel it. But the thing I want to talk about the most right now is the Blues scoring tonight. It was much different than games 3 and 4, where it wasn't the big ones. Also, shout out Real American Intelligence, giving us the update Battlehawk score, winning 12-6.
Or field goals. Lovely. That's our best player is our kicker. Anyways.
We love Rod. I mean, how can you not love Big Rod? He's the best. Also, shout out Sparky for joining us here again from the Great North up in Winnipeg. Really wonder why you keep coming around, but hey,
he's the man, dude.
He is the man. That probably the only good Jets fan I have met yet. But tonight the scoring was not the biggest guys when it comes to the scoring, but still, I mean, you can say it. I thought the Thomas line and the Shen line produced just fine. They did very well getting the plays made. Thomas especially creating plays for the next line up, because that's just what he does. He keeps those pucks alive. He cycles it so well. But tonight, Broberg getting a goal, Walker getting his third, Walker, of course, getting what would be the tying goal, Shen getting what would be the game-winning goal, Fowler for his second goal of the postseason, and then Toropchenko. So that is 2 goals from the fourth line, 2 goals from the blue line, and then also throwing Shen off of that wicked wrister that beats Hellebuck was a beauty of a shot on that 1v1 look. But I mean, in a game where really the top 2 lines I thought played very well, it was the bottom lines and the rare defensemen scoring today. And this is like, we talked about Walker getting the goals and how if you're not, you're getting your depth scoring without anything from your top lines, that's a bad sign. Now this is a great sign because you're getting your depth scoring still with production from your top line. Like, I thought Neighbors was creating well, just couldn't get anything to go. The Shen line did well. I mean, even the Thomas line did very good for a top line tonight, despite not getting anything on the board. But you get your depth scoring with the skill and all the simple like hockey plays and playmaking of your top 2 lines. That's fantastic to see.
Yeah, and I even in that stretch of goals where the Blues scored like 1, 2, 3 in a row, we saw Jordan Kyrou almost scoring on a wraparound as well. So we kind of talked about how it seemed like after the big hit that he took a couple games ago, he's been kind of ghost mode. But I thought he played a pretty solid game tonight, better than his games before for sure. But I mean, you mentioned Jake Neighbors. and just the way that he was going into puck battles, grinding along the boards, but not just that, like sticking up for his teammates in the scrums afterwards too. Like I can't tell you how many times the dude came out of a pile of bodies with his bucket off, just sweaty hair flying, just incensed about, like whatever was happening. But that's the guys that you need, and protecting Jordan Binnington. It looked like they were getting a little bit too close to him at times, especially once the game was out of hand. So letting them know that that's not going to happen, and all those things, I think, just from every standpoint, I think how we talked about last game, the biggest thing for the St. Louis Blues was to just flush that performance completely because they failed in so many categories. And we said, really, they need to come out and do a 180 in almost everything besides Jordan Binnington's play because, they just struggled. And really, I think they did that tonight. I don't think they got off to the start that they wanted. I don't think they started off with, it looked like they were kind of a step behind to start, and both teams were kind of timid because they didn't want to get caught and let in an early goal. But once the fireworks started popping off, there was no turning back, and they just rode the momentum all the way through this game. So if they can ride that momentum through Game 7, and it feels like there's a shorter break this time, like Sunday is not very far away. So I'll be anxious to see how Game 7 comes out. But I think Chad has been talking about it as well. Man, just the fact that we have gotten to this point in forcing a Game 7 against the best, literally statistically, the best team in the entire NHL for 82 games of a season when we shouldn't even, most of us didn't even expect to be here. Just phenomenal from the St. Louis Blues. And it's nice to see Brooke showing some love, popping in to listen to the best, Jacob and Thomas. Appreciate you always.
Thank you.
You are the best too. So, yeah, appreciate that. But my God, what a performance from this team. What a performance from the St. Louis Blues fans. I'm fired up. You're fired up. Let's go take it in Game 7. My God. It's just, this is everything to me.
Be the freaking nightmare.
Can you pull your goalie 4 times in one series? Apparently you can. Yeah, Gruden was crazy tonight. Yeah, looks like chat is popping off. We got Letty and Suter on D. That's another thing too. We heard that. We heard that Tyler. They played great. I liked the gap closure from the defense was very good. Kind of standing their ground at the blue line. I thought Justin Falk played pretty well. But just the physicality across the board, and this is very much a do or die game. So they easily. Thomas lost his hair for this. I did.
Yes.
We're grinding for this. But this game could have easily gone the other way if the St. Louis Blues came out scared, nervous, undisciplined, all those things, and they didn't. They were up to the task. So that gives me positivity in their momentum that they've built up to this point to carry them into Game 7.
So, I just kind of lost my train of thought for a second. I was going to talk about, talking about while we're on the topic of Suter Letty, I want to talk about that play Suter had, that simple play where he's in that mix and then he squishes it up against the pad of Binnington to kill that play. Just the simple plays that Suter did. And even especially that little one towards the end of the game where you got that crazy carom, couple of chances after Binnington makes a save, and then Suter kind of boxes out a bit, pushes it over for Binnington to save that. That is a veteran play right there. That is exactly what you want to see. And that is why Suter is in this lineup, because he can make the little plays like that to put, just make those simple, smart plays that not a lot of players make because they're either overthinking it or just saying, we got to get the puck out. Suter just simply, hey, give it to him, freeze the puck, get a change, all we need to do. That's the veteran plays that you want to see, the veteran presence that Suter and Letty bring to this team. And tonight, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Chef's kiss.
It did also look like there was a play where Velarde went in to go check Buchnevich and ended up checking him into Nemesnikov. And Nemesnikov left the ice for a little bit and eventually came back. But it just kind of goes to show you that I know we talked about it Game 1, but the physicality in this series. And I think Sportsnet even has a running tab of how many hits are going on this series. It's up to 400 or 500 or something crazy. But just the physicality level of this series, if that's not enough to get you fired up about the playoffs in the Stanley Cup, I don't know what is. But I think it's also important to note that all of those hits take a toll on a team throughout the course of a series. And that's why depth is so important in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and why the Blues have, stereotypically over the course of their history built around a depth lineup that, it's not just one top line that just kind of spearheads everything, or two top lines. It's, the WTF line was arguably our best line of the night. And I mean, Nathan Walker played phenomenal. He's got 3 goals in this series. And I don't know, there's not many fourth liners that are in this playoffs in the playoffs period that are, making the impact that he does on a game-to-game basis. So all of those things combined, I like the Blues depth, and the WTF line is a perfect example of that. Their third line is solid. Second line is solid. It's not just them relying on production from one line. And I think as we get further along in this series, potentially into a game 7, that's going to rear its head more is the impact of depth. And that could potentially be why the Blues come out in game 7 too, because I mean, like we talked about, Mark Scheifele being hurt is a massive impact negatively on this Winnipeg Jets team. Ehlers came back this game. Who knows if he's 100%? Nemesnikov left and then came back. Who knows if he's 100%? So all these things pile up. I think Braden Shen got slashed on his wrist tonight, but all of our guys are grinders and all of our guys are warriors. And I think we've got the edge in depth. So that might be why the Blues edge the Winnipeg Jets in this round and move on to round 2.
I saw just a little bit ago, Shafe Dog. I know he only got assists tonight, but Snuggerud sure does look good, don't he? What a stud for a rookie. He's going to be a freaking star. And I could not agree more. He has been – this is like eerily similar. I'd almost say this is like, outside of the regular season, this is like the forward version of Cale Makar's first playoffs. Like, that's kind of how this is feeling for me right now with Jimmy Snuggerud. He's getting top minutes, but on the Thomas line, our top line all season. And he has gone into that role, replacing that, basically kind of being that we're kind of the replacement a little bit for Holloway, but also getting in a little bit of a different look with moving Neighbors back. And he stepped into that role so well. And another thing here, Shafe again, is just always in the ozone making smart plays. I certainly agree. Like, he's not playing like a scared rookie. He's playing like a quick, smart decision-making guy who's been in the show for like 5 years, who's still got the speed and skill with him. I mean, this postseason has been nothing short of incredible for Jimmy Snuggerud so far.
I completely agree with that. And we keep talking about it every game, it feels like, but every game he feels like he takes it up to another level. Like, from a game-to-game basis, his development has been years beyond like the expectations for him. And the expectations even were high, right? You would think a guy like him coming in, having, like pretty much 0 games of NHL experience, coming in, like, you would think the moment would be kind of too big for him. I mean, you look at Connor Hellebuck, literally a Vezina winning like goalie, and by all accounts, the best goalie in the entire NHL. And the moment is way too big for him in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So for Jimmy Snuggerud to come in, have the poise, have the patience, and be making the strides that he is game by game. We keep saying this, but every game that we watch him, it feels like it's the best game that he's played so far. And so for him to be progressing in that manner all the way up to a potential like game 7 matchup against the best team in the NHL is phenomenal.
So talk about the physicality of this game. We mentioned it earlier. Want to throw in the stat that the physicality, the hits took a little bit of a dip tonight, just 40 to 36. So just the 76 total hits across the board.
That's all.
That's it. And again, the third period racked up. Let me do a quick counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 total penalties in the third period alone. Throw in the other periods, that's 22 penalties now, and just a handful of them being stick penalties and a delay of game. But in the third period, it had 5 roughings to start. You got the unsportsmanlike conducts and the misconducts, a slash, and then 2 roughs, unsportsmanlike, roughing, and then that high stick by Thomas to wrap up the game. But again, this has been nothing but physical. Blues could not get anything going in the power play tonight. Not a big deal. They score 5 even strength goals. That gets the job done. Only thing, also something to mention, Winnipeg could not get anything going full strength. Only got they got the 2 power play goals. That was it. Could not get anything else going full strength. Penalty minutes, even at 30 with all the misconducts and all the other fun stuff. But
I think they had 2 shots on goal at the end of the first period too, if I remember right. So the Blues were doing a very good job. We talk about, I feel like personally, the biggest weakness for the St. Louis Blues on this team at times when they struggle is their defense. And the defense showed up tonight. And that's a perfect example of that. 2 shots on goal in the first period. Like, we talk about the Blues not having that jump and not having that electricity off the jump in the first period. Like, you can easily get bit like that, right? Especially against this Winnipeg Jets team. But if your defense was up to the task, able to shut them down, to crush those opportunities, even on the power play, that keeps you in the game, right? And Jordan Binnington also did a good job of that, but the defense is a part of that. So for them, I think this is one of the best games defensively from the Blues that we've seen so far, for sure.
I mean, could not agree more. I've been, preaching about this Blues defense pretty much all series, if not all season. I mean, they step up well. The Blues don't really allow a lot of goals. And again, just the 2 goals tonight, and like you said, on the power play, that's it. Couldn't get anything going short or even strength. So, I mean, defensively, that's really gotta, it speaks a lot for this Blues team, especially full strength. Obviously, you like to see a little bit more on the penalty kill, but of course, I mean, you get 6 penalties called against. There's a very good chance at least one of those is going to sneak in.
I have a question for you, Jacob. I don't think Chat's talked about this yet, but I feel like it's a hot topic that we haven't really thought about, but I just thought about it, so I thought I'd bring it up to you full circle. Let's say Tyler Tucker comes to Jim Montgomery tomorrow, right, and says, "Hey, coach, I'm feeling really good. If you need me on Sunday, I'm there."
Ooh.
Does Jim Montgomery slot him back in for Suter, or do you take this team that just won 5-2 to a road game in Winnipeg and say, we're riding the momentum with the squad that just got the dub?
I don't know if I can.
And you slot Texier back in after you just got a 5-2 win with Joseph.
See, that one's easier. I think Joseph stays in the lineup for Sunday. I
liked his game. I liked his game a lot.
The Suter Tucker one, that one's hard. That one's hard for me. I think it's simply, I like Tucker. And I think he'd be a good fit. The only problem is he is coming back from an injury that's like that, just the slightest amount where I'm like,
it did look bad too.
Yeah. So I don't really think he'll be ready to go, but in the off chance he is, I really don't know. I thought the Suter really, honestly, he kind of impressed me today a little bit. And for stepping in kind of in a spot where they're like, hey, your spot is the one we're going to try and, get a little bit of a spark going. And he comes in, takes it on the chin, and then proves himself again tonight. It's hard to say, even if Tucker's ready, you pull him out. Because, I mean, he just played so well. I didn't think he played that bad either in the first 2. I think that was just the spot where if you're going to replace it, it's going to be his. But
I think offensively too, Tucker provides a little bit more. But defensively, I think Suter has that veteran presence of mind, and that maybe that extra level too, to just kind of take his play to the next step when he needs to. And Tucker, it's nothing against Tucker. Like there's going to be some matchups down the road, years from now when we're going to need more offense and we're going to need, a guy that's willing to drop the gloves like Tucker has shown he's capable of, or a guy that's going to bury, more bodies into the boards. But for a game 7, I want the guy that's poised, with 1,500 NHL games under his belt. And that's, defensively sound, because I think if we play solid defense against this Winnipeg Jets team and we consistently find the back of the net, Binner at the very least is going to give us a chance to win. But if the defense is also helping out in that regard, I think game 7 is ours for the taking.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I think the thing that's also kind of going around, the thought of Nick Leddy. I just want to get quick. Not much I can really prepare for this. What are your thoughts on Leddy so far? And maybe if that's a spot they replace.
I think defensively, right? That's not really why Leddy's like on defense, and that sounds weird to say, but like I think we talked about it a couple post games ago. But it feels like the Blues lineup, each of their defensive pairings has one physical guy that's there to kind of clear the crease, and one guy that's kind of there for the breakouts and the puck moving and the skating ability, right?
Yeah.
And so for Leddy down on that third pairing, I think he is the skater, right? So, and the puck mover, and he's pretty good at that in those breakouts and, the stretch passes and finding the open guy and having the vision to kind of circle back and be like, okay, there's nothing here. I'm not going to force it. And so even though there are some times that he makes me want to pull my non-existent hair out of my head on the defensive side of the puck, when it comes to getting the puck forward, he's probably one of your top three guys in that regard. So I think the complement of him and Suter on that bottom pairing, in terms of Suter's defensive play, kind of makes up for Leddy's lack of, and Suter's physicality makes up for Leddy's lack of. They kind of balance each other out. So I still think keeping him in there makes the most sense to me.
You're looking at the chat right now. I'm seeing a little bit of Binnington, especially from Dr. Rock here, the backwards R. That's sick. Binnington made big saves. Could have been bad without him. That's the best way to put it. We all love Binnington. I'll let you talk about him for a little bit, because I'm sure you have so many great things to say about him that I know I do as well.
I think I said it before this series, and people thought I was crazy. Or really, I think I brought it up in the Four Nations because that probably makes the most sense. People thought I was crazy, but I will take Jordan Binnington over every single goalie in this league. And it's not because he, is the most consistent or has the highest save percentage, but it's everything that we keep talking about. When the lights are the brightest, which really, like, when you compare starting goaltenders in the NHL to like starting pitchers in the MLB, right? Like there's just a different level of MLB pitchers. Like you can throw Clayton Kershaw in there for 162 games and he's getting Ks left and right. And then he, plays the St. Louis Cardinals in the playoffs. And next thing you know, he's throwing meatballs. It's just a completely different beast. So I 1,000% will always take the guy that shows up when the lights are the brightest, when you need him the most, that literally put this team on his back and carried them to their first Stanley Cup in 50 years. That man is Jordan Binnington. And if you're going to pay a goalie in the NHL, $12 million, $13 million, $14 million, that's the guy that should be getting it. I know a lot of people were not happy about his contract when he first got it, but if anything, his play in the Four Nations, absolute nails. His play in this playoff series, absolute nails. Even going back to the Colorado playoff series before he got ran over by Kadri, absolute nails. I think he had a 950 save percentage in that series. Like, we're just talking about a different beast when it comes to the most pressure intensive moments in professional hockey. That man is Jordan Binnington. His favorite player or basketball player of all time is Michael Jordan for a reason. And he mimics his game after that, and it shows on the score sheet. So I will, like I said, if you're going to give one goalie in this league the biggest contract, I'd give it to him in a heartbeat.
I mean, I've been writing Binnington since he got in the league. Hold on. Sorry, let me rephrase. Binnington has been my guy in net, no matter what. Doesn't matter the game. Hofer has been my backup for this season. Altex, not cool. Hofer's been my backup. Husso was for a little bit. But right now, based on how these two are playing, Binnington's number one, Hofer number two. But he has been my number one since 2019. And, I mean, look at it. Look at that. Biggest 3 games of his life. 2 goals allowed, 33 shots, 958. You're right. I mean, thank you. Of course, Domestic Gambling, our guys here connected to your
Shout out.
getting us that quick little stat. I mean, that just sums it up itself. That's Jordan Binnington. He's fantastic. I lose the ability to speak about it because
look at that. Bernie in the chat. Question, fellas.
Bernie.
WTF line outscored Winnipeg 3-0 at 5-on-5. Why have they been so spectacular? I will tell you exactly why, Bernie. It's the matchup, dude. Like we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but Nathan Walker, the physicality that he brings is absolutely everything that you dream about in a hockey player for the St. Louis Blues on their fourth line. Going back to 2019, that was something that was so successful for the St. Louis Blues too, was their fourth line. But Nathan Walker also has a scoring touch to him. I believe a couple of years ago he had 10 goals on the season. So he's one of those hybrid. He's one of those hybrid players that can beat you in multiple ways. Torpachenko, we've seen him go coast to coast like he's Nikita Kucherov at times this season. And he's playing on your fourth line too. And also, oh, by the way, he's like 6'6", 250 pounds. So like, he's like an NFL linebacker down there. So like, when it comes to a matchup and being able to throw that line up against the Winnipeg Jets first line, if you want to, or to create an offensive matchup, throwing them up against their fourth line, who in my opinion comes nowhere near the level of talent that we have on our bottom line. I think that's why they're out there having so much success, because not only can they beat you in terms of physicality, but they can also make you pay with their scoring touch. But they can beat you in either of those ways every single time. And I think that's why they got the results they did tonight.
God, really, everyone is in here tonight. Rock in here joining us as well, Matthew Rocchio. That was Bernie's point this morning. We're going to get players in Connor's grill and he will crack. I mean, that's exactly it. Exactly it. And that's what we were talking about last post game, is that they really weren't really getting in his face. And that's what the fourth line did tonight. Exactly. And
that first goal of Broberg, it was like a little flutter puck on the changeup, but you've got Buchnevich sliding across, right? Bringing his man with him. And his own man kind of runs into Hellebuck. Hellebuck's like, what's happening? And the puck's going in the back of the net. And then next thing you know, the Blues are kind of like off and running after that point. Because like we said earlier in the show, like it felt like the Blues didn't come out very strong. Like they were a little like, timid. They didn't want to make a mistake. And then as soon as that goal happened, like, the floodworks happen. And that's exactly what you need. Sometimes it's just throwing pucks on net, seeing what happens, especially with a goalie in net like Hellebuck, who looks like he's just fighting not even fighting every shot. Like the dude goes back behind the net to like play a puck. And you might as well be thinking that he's like Noah on the ark, like trying to weather a storm. Like he's coughing them up left and right. So sometimes all it takes is to make him uncomfortable, whether it's throwing shots on net, whether it's getting guys in front of the goal. And the Blues were able to do that, I think, in multiple ways tonight. And that's why we saw the result that we did.
Well, don't forget, here on Sports of STL, we're presented by DraftKings. This is the best time to bet on sports. Heart of baseball season, best time in the NHL right now, right in the middle of the postseason. Kentucky Derby tomorrow as well. A lot of fantastic sports events going on. So no better time to download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. Use the code STL Sports. That's STL Sports for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So Game 7 in Winnipeg, 6 p.m. Central Time puck drop against the Jets. So obviously joining us later today, or later on in the show, will join us very soon, Brendan Schaffer, Ethan Hannaford from Enterprise Center. So let's see a comment here from Dr. Rock, again, kind of talking about the physicality. This was something we talked about a couple of post games so far. The checks, I really think the checks by the Blues are getting to the Jets, knocking them off their game a bit. And I mean, I think we talked about it before that the physicality has kind of been wearing down on the Jets a little bit more than the Blues. We didn't see it as much in game 5, though. I think it was there just a little bit, but tonight it really showed. And obviously kind of let up on the gas. That happens when you're up 4 going into the third. But the first period didn't get it really going that much, but was still a physical game based off of kind of what they knew they were playing for. And even in that second period, with the flurry of scoring, also still playing a physical game. They've been doing that all series. Just, the Jets might be out hitting them, but the Blues are kind of getting the heavier hits, the smarter hits, not just throwing around the body. And I think that's starting to take a toll on Winnipeg right now. And we'll see how it looks on game 7, because obviously they got some guys out. They got some guys that aren't 100% getting thrown right into the storm with Ehlers and Velarde. So, I mean, we could really see it take its toll in game 7. But of course, they get a couple days of rest. And then it all comes to a close, a grand finale in Winnipeg on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think another level of that we haven't discussed today, but we did discuss on the last post game, is the officiating, right? And I think we saw it tonight as well. I'm not going to get on a tangent about how much I hate the refs when we just won, right? But I think from both sides from Jets fans and from Blues fans, I think we can both agree that these refs have been calling everything, right? They've been kind of inconsistent. They've been nitpicky. Like, we saw an embellishment call on Sundqvist last game when he's bleeding. And then we saw Sandberg tonight take a floppy stick to the ribs and go down like he got shot. So, and then no embellishment call. So I think, whatever, we won the game, right? Move forward, put it past. It doesn't matter. Whoever moves on to the next series will have most likely a different officiating crew anyways. That being said, going into game 7 for the St. Louis Blues, we kind of saw it a little bit tonight. Like Nathan Walker, like a baby slash on this guy, but then he goes down like a sack of potatoes, makes it obvious, and the rest fall for it. And then, just a weird scenario with the Shen brothers chirping on the bench too, and then the refs throw another penalty. So my thing for the Blues, this is part of the plan of success for game 7. Have to be disciplined, which I think they have been up to this point, but that discipline also means staying out of the penalty box. And even if that means not giving a guy an extra slash or a cross check after the play, even though most of the time in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you can get away with it. And 9 times out of 10, the Winnipeg Jets are getting away with it because most of the time they're doing it in games that they're getting blown out in, which is still crazy to me. But you cannot put yourself at a disadvantage in a close game in Winnipeg with the whiteout happening and Eric Comrie in goal. Sorry, with Hellebuck in goal. But I think that is a key to success for this team, because like we talked about, if Winnipeg Jets are not having success at 5-on-5, even a power play, even if they don't score on that power play, if that can shift the momentum in their favor, which we've seen that at times it can, getting sustained zone pressure on Jordan Binnington, trying to make him nervous, throwing shots on net with traffic and all that stuff. You got to stay out of the box in game 7. This is do or die. This is your last chance to move on. It's tied it up 3-3. Do not shoot yourself in the foot by going a man down, giving this team an advantage, especially like we talked about. Scheifele is hurt. This team is not rolling on all cylinders right now because they're missing a lot of guys. And like you mentioned, had a lot of guys come back from injury that probably aren't necessarily 100%. Not saying that everybody right now is 100% in the playoffs, but those guys specifically might still be ailing. So the last thing you want to do is make it more difficult on yourself in a game 7 scenario. And I think the Blues I think they've shown us in this series that they have the discipline to avoid that.
The fellas in the suits are joining us here once again. Brennan Schaffer, Ethan Hannaford, the best dressed on Sports Hub STL at the moment. We'll see how long that lasts. But for now, they certainly are the best dressed at the moment. Wearing those gorgeous suits.
Hey, hey, speaking about how long that lasts, I'm curious how long your beard is going to last. Because
probably as long as Thomas's hair, based on how this is going. I don't know.
The last time we were on here, we kind of put the seeds out there of maybe he shaves his beard if the Blues make the Cup final. And you were like, nah, not doing that. But then the next day I saw a tweet that indicated you're on board.
I don't even think it was the next day. I think
it was later that
night.
day.
It was 30 minutes afterwards. I'm not even gonna lie. It was right there.
All right, so as long as we're still on board with that, we can start talking about the game.
Trust me, we are.
Okay.
Hey, as soon as I posted it, there's no going back. It's pinned. It's sitting there. Well, fellas, best way to start it out. Tell us the atmosphere, Enterprise. How was it feeling in the arena tonight? Because from just the TV, we could tell that place was rocking, probably the loudest it's been all series. Got to get the opinions on it here.
All right. It was rocking. It was loud. There's no doubt about it. Ethan might be able to give you more of the Gruden scoop because I was en route doing my other radio show. I got here just in the nick of time. I heard player intros, but didn't see the Gruden scoop there at the beginning. The building was rocking. There's no doubt about that. I felt like the building and the players had a little bit of a nervous energy in the first period, though.
Oh.
And even Jim Montgomery spoke after the game and said not really the first 7-8 minutes that he wanted to see, but really was happy and content with the timely goal that they were able to get in the first period to sort of wipe the slate clean. It was a period where they didn't play what they wanted to play, but they ended up leading 1-0 at the end of it. And that's really all you can ask for. They were able to find their game in the second. And then the building, Ethan, 4 goals in 5 minutes or whatever it was. You described for the guys what that was like because it was unbelievable to be witnessing that.
It felt honestly like deja vu. I mean, how simple was that to Game 4? The similarities are honestly scary. A tie game back and forth. Winnipeg, while I'll say the biggest difference was that I think that there were parts of Game 4 that Winnipeg were controlling much more so. It never felt like Winnipeg, even when the Blues had a couple of tough calls against them on penalties, never felt like Winnipeg really had a grasp of this game. The Blues controlled it defensively in the first period. Utter dominance, to be quite frank, defensively in the first period specifically. But when the Blues got the first one and Nathan Walker netted that first one to give them a 2-1 lead, it was like, okay, it's go time. And then Shen tallies one just a couple of minutes later. And let's be quite frank, even after the changeup that Philip Broberg scored in the first period, this crowd was already chanting Connor. They were just begging for an opportunity to chant to Connor Hellebuck. But once Shen scored the third goal of the night,
that was the one.
A goal that, let's be honest, a Vezina Trophy winner and who will likely it'd be a shock if he wasn't for the second straight year. There is no reason that he should not be saving that shot. No reason whatsoever. So at that point, it felt like Blues fans, and it was almost like the meme, like, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Like, we got him wherever we want.
Blood in the water at that
Blood
point.
in the water, exactly. And, the place was so loud. The Connor chants would not stop. I thought that they were intense in Game 4. It was even more brutal in this one. And it almost felt like, and I'm already saying at that point, man, it feels this is so similar to how Game 4 went. And then they took it another notch and they scored 2 more. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? You can't pick this up. The crowd was absolutely electric. As far as my Gruden cam, which I was keeping up with John Gruden all night. It didn't take long for us to find his suite and see where he was. He was in a suite all night with Chris Pronger. A match made in heaven.
Pretty good.
They were entertaining. Did they show it on TV? Gruden going ham in pregame. Did they show that?
I think so. I barely caught it. I was at Mizzou softball to begin. So a quick.
Wow, there we go. Now you're speaking my language.
Right now.
Now we can talk.
I'm in Columbia at the moment. This is now the 3rd background, I believe, that I've given. Still more to come. Plenty of rooms I will be in for post games as this hopeful season continues. It's from the get-go, honestly, and I was at a senior day celebration. My sister's a manager for the softball team. Shout out my amazing sister. So I'm on the field after walking in the celebration. I got my phone in my hand. I'm like this while they're showing videos. I'm just standing there in the outfield and just like checking my phone, doing this. And we were in line when Broberg scored the goal, and and I'm celebrating. My sister's like, shut up! And I'm like, but they scored. Like, celebrate a little bit. It was so quiet. I'm just like, yes. And they're like looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, they scored. Just calm down.
Yeah,
But
you
I do think
can't blame a guy. You can't blame a guy. But yeah, Gruden wearing a Shen jersey is waving the towel, going crazy. They had most definitely hyped it up at that point. Everyone knew what was coming, and the crowd was it felt like the crowd was just waiting for John Gruden to go on the screen, which was poetic and beautiful, and also just like so strange. The whole thing is just so strange,
Kind of surreal.
yeah. And then he takes off the jersey, and he's wearing the we're the freaking be the
nightmare
shirt, and then he pounds a cold one. I mean, it was just it was poetic. Sum up hockey playoffs with something more beautiful than that.
At one point, the Blues tweeted that somebody needs to get Tom Calhoun a water, and I was like, somebody needs to get Gruden probably a water too, just to make sure he's doing good. Mix in a water, as they say.
I do think there's a possibility that the St. Louis Blues crowd missed out on an opportunity tonight. So bear with me here, right? Picture this. The Blues skate out, right? And the entirety of Enterprise Center is in a whiteout. We win. We go to game 7. They're in a whiteout, and the Blues are convinced it's a home game, and then we win that too.
There you go. You could have put a little bit of reverse psychology on them.
Yeah. That might have been a good strat.
And that's like what looms over this whole thing, right? Is game 7, the place you haven't won yet in the series. The Blues have definitively been the better team through 6 games. I know it's 3-3, but you look at the goal differentials at home, whereas the only game the Blues really didn't play well in at all was game 5. And even the first 2 in Winnipeg, there were some good parts of those games. To find a way to transfer this energy and this style of play to Winnipeg is like the entire thing now.
Right.
And I don't know that I can even predict that they're going to do it until I see it, but there's no reason that they can't find that energy and bottle it up. It's going to be tough, but they've done some unbelievable things here. And it's really been, I guess the one part of me that's a little bit concerned is it's all been momentum based. Like the snowball rolls down the hill and that's it. They have taken momentum and knocked Hellebuck from 3 games. I don't think you're going to do that in their building. So that they haven't won a close one. I would have almost wished today could have been like 3-2. I think that would have been better for the Blues.
We said that we're like, it's going to have to happen. It's probably going to happen tonight. And we've said that for 3 straight home games now, and it hasn't happened for 3 straight home games. So I'm all out of guesses. I mean, as far as how does it happen? But I mean,
something going on in the chat right now.
Who's getting a tattoo? What's going on?
Josh Lawless has joined the bet brigade. I love it.
Got a new body alter if Blues win bet here. Josh Lawless joining in with the group.
Oh, okay.
Game 7.
Very specific.
But
it's very specific.
Game 7 on a Shen OT game winner, I will get a Blues tattoo.
It's specific, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, I mean, it's not.
In terms of game winners, I would put Braden Shen up there with 3 other guys to put like my most money on him to score a game winner. So
yeah, he's not really putting it on. A tattoo is permanent though.
I don't know. Maybe in 3-on-3, but 5-on-5, I don't know.
A tattoo is permanent, so I understand the different thresholds. That's fair.
But I respect it. I'm not. I respect it. It's just kind of like Jacob. Kind of like Jacob. It's safe. It's safe. So we'll see if it happens. Hey, if it happens, then get tattooing. So
that would be pretty fun. Harry putting down. It's going to happen now, Josh. A tattoo of Shen's face, perhaps. I mean, based off of the trend here so far, obviously we have one successful when it comes to the bets.
There you go.
Thomas being bald. Possible with number 2. We'll see if we could maybe even go 3 for 3 this would be fantastic. I think someone's saying Kevin Bacon was at the Enterprise Center tonight. Did you guys see a Kevin Bacon?
I did not see Kevin Bacon.
I didn't notice that. No, I feel like they'd have put him on the screen.
Yeah.
If so,
You would have thought. Well, I think we're more of a local place. That's why Tony La Russa was up there and he was at the game. It makes a little bit of sense as well. So before we get too deep, Brent, I want to bring up something you tweeted about the post-game presser. Saw it on Chicklets. First of all, shout out Brendan Schaefer being the first one to post this. Chicklets was second.
oh yeah,
Just out there talking about the quote from Scott Arniel. Tonight was not about Connor. Tonight we imploded in front of him. Was the thought the Jets' defensive problems, Hellebuck's problems, or both? I think it was both. I want to hear your guys' thoughts.
I think it's both, but when it gets to a certain point that it's evident it's in his head, I thought it was the Shen goal because Shen's got a guy on him and he's still putting the puck on the net. Like, it's a really nice shot, but it's one that was only going to have so many possible angles, I think, to go toward. And for Hellebuck not to be able to stop that one told me, like, all right, this is that exact thing that Blues fans were hoping to see again, where they're going to be chanting Connor, Connor, Connor until he leaves the game. But I thought it was similar to Game 4 in the way that the Jets were playing pretty even Steven with the Blues until they weren't, and then the onslaught. In that moment, Hellebuck's given up everything, but also there's a lot of opportunities with the Blues in the offensive zone, whether it's because of penalties or even strength. At that point, you got to find a way to clear pucks. Like when you're on the downside of a game like that as a Blues fan, you're just desperate to get them to clear a puck and try to get back to the neutral zone. And for a while, it seemed like the Jets couldn't do that. So I agree with Jacob. That's why to me it is a little bit of both.
Let's just quickly go goal by goal here, and let's try and pin the blame a little bit. I mean, the first goal, the first goal is not on Connor Hellebuck whatsoever. That is
probably on his D-man.
Sandberg was
ran into him.
Yeah, exactly. He ran into him.
And that's why they didn't challenge, by the way. And Arniel said afterward, like, they called the timeout, they weren't sure. And then as they look at it more, the contact was kind of on their guy that sort of pushes Buchnevich. But that screened the heck out of him. It was a knuckle puck, and it was almost nice that it was a softer shot because it lined up perfectly with when Hellebuck couldn't see anything.
Yeah, and let me preface also with, like, just because I'm saying that it wasn't on him doesn't mean that he can't make some of these saves. Like, this is if Connor Hellebuck is as good as like people talk about,
as good as he is in the regular season.
And as I was going to say, and the talk matches how good he is. I mean, he is still the best goalie in the NHL for a reason. He has earned that title. But like that doesn't mean that that how many saves could we have if did Jordan Binnington make tonight that we're saying like, okay, well, if that goes in, we're not blaming Binnington. Like, I mean, he made some phenomenal saves. Like that's what you expect out of a goalie the caliber of Connor Hellebuck. And so I mean the first goal I would say was not directly on Hellebuck. The second one I don't think it was either. I mean, we saw in Game 5 how important net front presence was, except it didn't go the way of the Blues. And Nathan Walker had a great setup. I thought kudos to, I think it was Broberg that shook DeMello on that play to open to even like set up Nathan Walker for that goal to give the Blues the lead. That was beautiful.
His skating was so nice on that.
So nice. The Shen goal, that's the one I think, as we mentioned, that one was by far the most on Hellebuck. That's a save he has to make. There's no excuse for that. The Cam Fowler goal.
It's high glove. I think that's what he's been struggling with the whole series.
I don't have enough of a recollection of who that one would necessarily be on, but I can tell you that the last goal, the one that Toropchenko scored, most definitely wasn't on him. I mean, his defense set him up terribly. Whether it was a bad pass from Luke Shen or DeMello just couldn't handle it, I'm not sure. But that play that happened behind the net and it led to the puck wrapping around the boards and ended up for a perfect opportunity. Toropchenko coming across the ice, gets the pass right to him. I mean, that is not on Connor Hellebuck first and foremost. So I mean, I think that to sum all of that up, and the comment here from Real American Intelligence, the Shen goal was set up once again by Binnington.
He does that,
100. Going to talk about that.
100%, and it's multiple times now that we have seen it in this series. He's dishes it off to Suter. Suter, a great stretch pass to Neighbors and a beautiful touch from Neighbors to Shen. that was, we've talked a couple of times during this series about plays where it's like, oh, that is perfect hockey. That was perfect hockey. But as our guy, Real American Intelligence, said, that was 100% set up by Jordan Binnington.
Yeah.
But I think just after going through goal by goal, right, I think there's a couple that you could say, yeah, like perhaps with the title that he has earned, he probably should have saved a couple of those or could have. But it's not entirely on him. It's not entirely on the defense.
It's more about the sequence to me where it was 4 and 5 minutes or whatever the timing was where the whole team is on their heels. You don't want a goaltender on the heels because if your team notices that, which they probably did during the Shen goal, then it's like, well, what's that going to do to everybody? Every question, every person out there tonight was asked after the game, Blues-wise, Jordan Binnington, Game 7, what kind of confidence does that give you? And there's something to that about Jordan Binnington. I think it was Monty who said it. The way he plays calm back there can instill confidence in the guys in front of him to play the way that they need to play. And that was kind of the inverse is I think what we saw from the Jets.
And perhaps even because, something interesting is we saw in Game 5, right? We talked about a lot of similar things, guys, right on the post-game show with Connor Hellebuck and the goalie gave up to Snuggerud to tie things up at 2. It was almost like the team stepped up, recognizing that their goalie didn't have that full confidence because of how poor of a goal that was given up, that they stepped up and all of a sudden the Blues couldn't create any opportunities. I wonder how much the home crowd had to do with that because tonight it felt like it was the exact opposite when he gave up that shaky goal. And now, to be fair, they had already scored one before that, but they gave up that shaky goal. Now it's a 2-goal lead, and it felt like the crowd just rained it on, and there was no switching that momentum back. Obviously, it's a different situation. The Blues have a 2-goal lead at the point that he gives up the bad one. It's still tied up in Winnipeg, so it's not entirely the same scenario. But it's interesting that we're having a similar conversation back-to-back games and with very different outcomes in the way that Winnipeg played in front of Connor Hellebuck.
It looks like chat is kind of popping off about Robert Thomas right now, so I wanted to kind of touch on that and say this. It feels like since Four Nations, obviously this team has reached another level, but I think Robert Thomas has reached another level as well. I know he got injured earlier in the season. It sounded like he had, high hopes of playing in the Four Nations, and he wasn't able to because the injury kind of derailed that. And then I think he had a sit-down conversation with Montgomery talking about Jack Eichel, I believe it was, and how he felt like he could mimic parts of his game and be more effective for the team. So they kind of created a strategy to take his game to the next level in that regard. Obviously had the stretch post Four Nations where he was like the leading point getter in the NHL at points in times, which is absolutely insane given, I feel like categorically wise, there's kind of like the elite level. We always call Robert Thomas elite, but it's kind of like the bona fide elite level players in the NHL, the Pasternaks, the Matthews, the Ovies, like all those guys. And then Robert Thomas has kind of in the past been in a category below that. I think the play that we're seeing from him elevated in the playoffs right now, like he has been consistent, even on games where he's not finding the score sheet. Like he's dominating the offensive pressure for the St. Louis Blues. He's good in his own zone. Like he's gotten better in the faceoffs and the board battles, all those things. I think we're seeing the progression of a next level of Robert Thomas. Yes. I think if we see a full season from him next season, even moving on through the playoffs, I think we're going to see a different beast. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say by the end of next season, we're going to be talking about Robert Thomas as one of the top 15 players in the NHL.
Yeah, and having more guys around him than maybe in the past couple of seasons that are getting to their games, and he's able to facilitate. Honestly, it was a little surprising to look up and see he had just 1 point in this game, but that's because the bottom 6 guys were doing all the scoring. The bottom 6 is the defense. You had the stat +9 for the WTF line tonight, which
2 goals, 2 assists, unbelievable.
You play like that with your bottom line guys, you're going to end up doing pretty well, and it's. Montgomery didn't have enough good things to say about him, just the way that they have been able to –
the identity, the way they set the tone. And it's funny, too, we talked in the Game 5 post-game show, we talked about how they were also the best line by far, But what followed that was right. If the fourth line is your best line,
right, that's not a
then
compliment.
it's
Usually.
not a compliment. Usually
Tonight, though, I would say
different story.
It was in a winning effort. That was still your best line, and they've been your most consistent line. And Montgomery talked about, they're scoring against every different defensive pairing that the Jets can throw at you over the course of this series.
Yeah.
There are a lot to handle, is the way that Montgomery phrased it, and I think that gets more true as a series goes along. And I think that kind of line is a really important aspect when we talk about the word momentum. When your team's got it, it's probably because of what those guys in the bottom six are doing, and that line in particular has been, they've been nails.
Wanted to talk about this comment on the screen right now. Snuggie and Thomas have been great together. Another thing we can talk about, however, with Holloway out, Holloway being out, he might fit with Kyrou really well right now. His play might help benefit Kyrou. It's a possibility, but the thing that I kind of want to bring up, and the thing that comment really made me think of, we saw the play between Holloway and Kyrou earlier on, especially right after the Four Nations break, how well they played off each other. They had some fantastic goals in that stretch. And I think maybe, we've kind of seen Kyrou drop off a little bit, and especially here in the series, kind of basically, a lot of people are saying he's kind of been a ghost this series. Do you think maybe that's a product of Holloway being out, that he's kind of missing kind of that big, that missing piece almost, and that's maybe why we're not seeing him contribute as much?
Perhaps, but there's no doubt that not only him, but the top six, it took some adjusting to find their footing following the Holloway injury. I think that Jordan Kyrou has been the biggest victim of that injury outside of obviously Dylan Holloway. But let's not forget also that this was in 5-on-5 play, the Shen Holloway Kyrou line was top 3 in hockey post Four Nations break. Yeah. They were this. It wasn't just they look good. This was one of the best lines in hockey, and it felt like the Blues finally, once he got back on home ice for Game 3, for the first time, really found their identity post Holloway injury. Now that doesn't mean that there weren't times, right, when Kyrou have 2 goals against Utah in the final regular season game of the season. Yeah. So to say that it is solely based off of the lack of Dylan Holloway, I don't know if it's fair necessarily to say that. If you're going to rely on Jordan Kyrou to be one of your best players, then he has to be able to perform. Whether his performance can't be based off of whether Dylan Holloway is out there. I'm not saying, you mentioned it with Thomas and surrounding him with better pieces. I'm not saying that there isn't an impact necessarily. But also, there's also people that have talked about that he hasn't looked quite the same since the hit that he took in Game 2. There's been some speculation maybe that he's playing banged up, which, in the playoffs, there's no excuses. Everyone's hurt. But you wonder if that could potentially have something to do with it. Fortunately, up to this point, right, we're going to a Game 7. The Blues are still alive. It hasn't eliminated them up to this point. But I will say this, if we're fortunate enough to get to the point where we get beyond a Game 7, the Blues are going to need Jordan Kyrou to step up and to start playing, start being an impactful offensive piece for this team if they want to make a deeper run. They can, with how good Jordan Binnington has been, with how good the offense from the defense has continued to be, you can get away with that early, but the deeper you get, the more of a full roster showing it has to be. Right. And normally you're talking right about that full roster coming from deeper guys like your third and fourth line pieces. Now we're talking in reverse. Jordan Kyrou will need to step up if the Blues are going to make a deep run here into the Stanley Cup playoffs.
And I like some of the comments talking about the physical nature of the playoffs, maybe not boding as well. I think we have seen during this run for the Blues, especially since Four Nation always seems to be kind of the point that we harken back to, really since Montgomery took over. I think we've seen more of Jordan Kyrou playing that complete game that it seemed like for multiple years we were calling to see. And maybe he takes a hit in a Game 2 and then is more kind of reverting back to, all right, when I'm showing up, I'm trying to make a quick dash and maybe not take the hit, but maybe I can come up with an offensive play and be, in the past, maybe you would say he's more of a one-trick pony. I think he has turned into more of a complete player, but as a physical playoff series goes along, and if there's something in there where he took a hit and after we find out what he was really dealing with, that seems to always be the case too with a lot of guys at the end of the season. Maybe that's part of the reason for it, but I agree, like the further this goes along, you have to have the different tricks up your sleeve and the different elements of your team. And he's a big one and certainly was during the regular season. Would be nice to be able to see him kind of step back into that role because that growth had been there, I think, prior to what we've seen in more recent games.
I do think too that when you talk about Jordan Kyrou being your leading goal scorer, the level of his production will always be based on how many goals he's putting in the back of the net. And he's not scoring right now, but I think tonight he came a couple inches away from scoring on that wraparound, so it did look like his game was a little bit more effective tonight. But even going back to Pavel Buchnevich and the hat trick game, I think before that hat trick he had scored 1 goal in the playoffs in like 28 games played, and he's a little bit older than Jordan Kyrou, if I'm not mistaken. So sometimes it's just taking some time for these guys to figure it out. He's getting his feet wet and getting more playoff games under his belt, and he's realizing that guys like Logan Stanley and Lowry kind of hold back in the regular season and reach another level as well in the playoffs. So how do you overcome that when you're not consistently making the playoffs for the St. Louis Blues in years past? He's not as accustomed to it. So I think just like you were talking about, Brendan, how he's tried to overcome the objection that he's not a two-way player. His plus minus this season has been light years better than it has been in the past. Now people are saying he's not physical enough. Let's give him a little bit of a chance to show us, how he responds to that. And it's not going to be like a, 3-game, 5-game sample size. It'll probably be over the course of these, next 3 seasons or so.
Right.
But let's let him show us that he is capable of reaching that next level in the playoffs before we jump down his throat and be like, trade him right now. He doesn't have it in his skin.
No, he was a big part of the regular season and
there,
getting to this point.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure. So I think this is another one. I asked Thomas about this earlier. Josh bringing it up again. Snuggerud has adapted. Talking about the Kyrou thing, but I want to ask you guys, with you guys jumping in. What have been your guys' thoughts on Jimmy Snuggerud and the play that he has had this series? I compared him almost to, obviously take out the regular season. It's kind of similar to how Cale Makar did in a forward position. He's might not be putting up insane numbers, but he's playing great, making simple plays. Kind of what Cale Makar did on a defensive side in his first season in the playoffs. That's kind of how I compared him. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Snuggerud here in round 1.
It just goes to show that for a couple of baseball guys, how different hockey is compared. I mean, you would never see how the Blues have gone about with Jimmy Snuggerud happen in our primary sport, just because there is something about this level of play at this time of the year where it is just it's just different, and I think you recognize the style of the NCAA and his game was very similar already to the NHL level. We're seeing how mature of a player he is, but also I think the biggest thing, right? He's got a couple of goals in this series, and that's obviously what's going to be his strength. There's something I noticed tonight. He ripped a couple of them. There was one specifically I noticed earlier in the game where I'm like, okay, that's the shot of someone that's confident in their shot. It wasn't like it was a grade A opportunity. And forgive me for not being able to remember specifically what point in the game it was or what the scenario was. But for a guy that has played, 12 NHL games, I don't know the specific number, but is so young in his NHL career, the first point is that he is playing with the level of confidence that he's playing with. I mean, even in Game 5 when he's in a chokehold under Logan Stanley and he gets thrown down, he just gets up, he skates away. He's a mature kid for his age, and you wouldn't think, based off of what you've seen, based off what you've heard, right, about him being so young, you wouldn't notice it in the way that he plays. And the second thing goes into that once again is that, with those young guys, you're almost more so just hoping that like they can blend in and that like the mistakes don't stand out there is no part of his game, and you can confirm or disagree with this, Brendan. I want to hear your thoughts. There is no part of his game, in my opinion, that we're saying like, yeah, he looks like a young player. He looks. I'm sure for the hockey experts out there, you can break down things here and there, but there's nothing that you're saying like, yeah, like Jimmy Snuggerud had this big moment where he looked like a young player, and a young player making a big mistake in a situation that put the Blues in a tough spot. That has not happened at all in his time in the NHL, but specifically in the playoffs up to this point. And I think that says a lot about the kind of player that he is and how impactful he's going to be in the years to come for this Blues team.
I think it was notable in one of the road games when he kind of was aggressive defensively, trying to help save a play and sort of created the goal and ran into Bennington. But notable that then shortly thereafter, he's the one making the shot, an unbelievable shot, to kind of show you like he's not going to get rattled by making, whether you call that a mistake or not, like making a mistake of aggression, trying to make a play for his team. It's that could be something that causes a player, especially a young player, to sort of pull back. And yet you see a little bit later on in that game, he has the shot that was the equalizer. So I think that kind of goes to a lot of what Ethan was saying, but it's been impressive to watch him integrate in the way that he has.
It does sound like the biggest difference between like when these prospects come up, right? It does sound like the biggest thing to them, they're like, oh, how does this differ between college and, or like the AHL, and like what's the biggest difference between the show and where you were playing before? And it's always like the speed of the game, right? And I think with Jimmy Snuggerud, the reason that he is blending in so well is his confidence, like you were saying, Ethan, but I think it also trickles down to his decisiveness and his hockey IQ, which that would also align with why Doug Armstrong kind of prioritizes that as his number one attribute when he's drafting. You get a guy with high hockey IQ that's decisive when he has the puck. 9 times out of 10, like you can slot him into the lineup immediately, and he's not, to your guys' point, like shooting you in the foot or, having to say like, well, he's a rookie, we're going to run into like bruises and stuff. And like you guys have said, I don't think we've had to do that with Jimmy Snuggerud so far, but it's because he's so decisive with the puck. Like it's on his stick and it's off his stick almost immediately because he knows where to go with it, whether it's a pass, whether it's a quick shot on goal, or whether it's getting the puck deep. He's learning quickly what to do with it quickly. And I think that's his biggest asset right now to this team in the playoffs.
Can we give some love to all of our homies in the chat that are that were saying Jets in 6 following Game 5 and are now saying Jets in 7? Just want to give some love to Jeff, who is a master troll. Kudos to you, man. You do your job well. But I just wanted to throw that in there. That and hot and cold. But with that one specifically, a lot of emotional writing, it feels like, Brendan.
Well, I want to know, like, and I even said I predicted the Blues would win Game 6 coming into today. I said before Game 6 that I don't know if I'll be able to say they will win Game 7, like to predict it. Now that we've seen the way that Game 6 unfolded, it's easy to say Game 7, anything can happen. Like it's what the task is. How do you legitimately feel, guys, about Game 7, knowing that the Blues have not yet done it in that building, and that's going to be the task if they're going to extend their season?
Yeah, definitely going to extend this to the chat as well. Give us your opinions. Give us the thoughts on Game 7.
And why? Why? If you predicted them to win it, tell us why. Because I like the optimism. What changes in your mind? Because I agree they could do it, but what's the key that changes it? I want to know from people where they see it, because I'm not quite there yet. I'm on the fence right now.
Still thinking. Thomas, what are your thoughts on Game 7? What are we thinking? Obviously, Game 7 in Winnipeg, Sunday night, 6 p.m. See if it'll be accompanied with any other games. They are dwindling down at the moment. Be Stars, Colorado tomorrow in Game 7. They'll face the winner of that. I believe that's actually the last series to be played. These last, I think of.
Yeah, these are the 2 that are left. So.
2 remaining. So this will be the last 2 we will see who will win or be the next one. Will it be Jets Stars, Jets Avalanche, so on and so forth. Thomas, thoughts? What is the thought of Game 7? What do you think will happen? What do the Blues need to do to get a win? I mean, floor is yours. Go in depth. Go as little. Go as far. A lot you can talk about. What are we thinking about Game 7?
All right, you guys are gonna hate me for this one, and chat's gonna hate me for this one. But I've been consistent up to this point so far in this 3-game series. I think the X factor here is Jordan Binnington. I think the negative X factor here for the Winnipeg Jets is Connor Hellebuck. But I think the Jets defense makes up for Connor Hellebuck, and the Blues lack of defense makes up for Jordan Binnington. So it almost cancels out, right? And we've seen how closely this Blues team plays against Winnipeg. They're taking little pieces. They're learning every time, and they're coming off of a 5-2 win, riding the momentum, right? If we win, Binner's the difference. I do believe that. I also believe that history tends to repeat itself. So when you go back to the Four Nations title game, the final score was 3-2 with Canada winning in overtime. I think it's going to be an overtime win for the St. Louis Blues by a final score of 3-2 because Jordan Binnington is the man.
So that feels like the tighter version of a game. Like Game 7's got to be tight, right?
Right.
I've come on here 3 times though and said we're going to have a tight next game, and then it doesn't necessarily always end up being that way. I'm just looking at the series at this point: 8 goals, 3 goals, 9 goals, 6, 8, 7. I mean, you have had some big goal totals, sometimes on both sides, but usually just one team that's kind of taking it to the other. Game 7 different just because it's Game 7 and both teams are going to tighten up. I keep thinking we're going to see that type of 3-2, 2-1. Like right now, I can't predict there to be a game that the losing team only scores 1 goal, because it just feels like there have been so many chances in this series for both sides, regardless of where the games have been played. Like someone's getting chances, and I predicted in Game 5. I think I said it was going to be that tight game. Blues would win like 3-1, 2-1, something like that. Jets had 2 goals in the first 10 minutes or whatever it was. Like at this point, it's hard for me to get on board with it's going to be a tight game thing, because it's burned me so many times. But it kind of does feel like in a Game 7, if the Blues are going to win it, it might have to be that way, because I don't think you're going to do to Hellebuck in their building what you've been able to do to him here. That's the difference, where you're not going to be – it's not 5-2. Like, I don't see where the Blues get that kind of result.
So I think that it the name that I would say that it's going to come down to is Connor Hellebuck. When you look at specifically, we know what it's been like here at Enterprise, but that doesn't matter in my opinion, because you're not playing at Enterprise. You're playing at Canada Life Center in front of the rowdiest fans in the National Hockey League. When you look at, he hasn't been sharp in any of these games. I guess Game 2 was his best at performance, but he hasn't been overwhelmingly sharp in any of these games. But when you look back on a couple of different situations, right, where even in games where he hasn't been sharper, there's ones that he lets by him. There's a couple of moments you think back to where it's like, oh man, that he made the big save in the moment that he needed to. The first one that comes to mind is Game 1. The Blues are up 3-2, and he saves the Kyrou breakaway. I mean, that was the
worst thing that could have happened.
If the Blues
getting a breakaway like that,
if the Blues score there and go up 4-2, they ended up winning 5-3. I think one of them was an empty netter. I mean, I know that Monty in the post game of that still said, I don't know if that would have been enough. But you don't know how the momentum changes, how the crowd gets brought out of it after a goal like that also. So Game 1 was a big one. And then we all I know we talked after Game 5, there was a little bit of luck involved, but the save that he was able to make, the stick save on Sundqvist in Game 5, ended up proving to be huge. You score that goal, you go up 2-1, I believe. That would have given them the lead, or would they have been up 2-0?
I think they were already up.
Did they score first?
I don't remember. Doesn't matter.
I think they did score first in the Blues. But they would have been up 2-1. If Connor Hellebuck is able to make those saves, the way you look back and you're like, oh, that's the one. If that goes in, then perhaps the momentum changes, because it feels like everything has been based around the momentum is based around that crowd at Canada Life Center, right? And if you're able to take that crowd out of it, I'm much more confident now in the Blues' ability to play deeper into the game than I was early in the series. If the Blues are able to get the momentum on their side early and get in Hellebuck's head, I think that we could see that 5-2 score, that 5-3 score. But I think it's all dependent on if Hellebuck is able to make that big save when needed, and does the crowd get behind him?
And I saw one comment earlier that I think is pretty relevant. Dumb penalties. There were still even some dumb penalties tonight. It's been kind of a thing that has been sprinkled. I think you're going to get those in a lot of games, but don't let that be the story of Game 7. Please. Right? Don't take Hellebuck off the hook, because that's basically, whether they score or not, that's 2 minutes where you're not maybe getting a chance to get in his head. I don't know if that's going to happen in Winnipeg, but you certainly can put pucks on his body and make him stop him. And if you're always in the box, I was worried that tonight's game would kind of get to that, but the Blues were obviously able to find their game in the second period. So that would be the other thing I would agree with that I saw from the chat earlier. Just going to kind of make sure that that doesn't become a theme of Game 7.
Well, before I give my opinion and begin to wrap, want to obviously take a look at some of the thoughts from chat about Game 7. Honestly, talked about earlier on Scuba, talking about Jets could be, Jets could win because they've been so dominant at home, but Binnington is a wild card. Obviously, there, Game 7 keys, clean zone exits, suffocating forecheck, work low to high where D shoot, forwards crash the net. I mean, that's a recipe for success. Aaron Ed stayed for the Blues box. Yeah, worked very well. He thinks it'll be 3-1 Blue. Give the fourth line its minutes. Certainly agree with that. And I think the one that resonated the most with me, I gotta find it because I need to give out the correct credit to it. But I think the biggest one I definitely saw was carry the momentum from St. Louis to Winnipeg. If they can do that before, they can do that, obviously they couldn't do it again in Game 5. But if they can do that for the first time this series, continue it on, play the game that they played here at home, I think that's how you get it done. Is the simple thing of trying to continue your theme, can carry the momentum, bring it into Winnipeg, start right away. And I think this, I said for the Game 3 and this past game, got to set the tone early. Doesn't have to be physical. Just make some good plays. You don't have to score in the first 5 minutes. You just got to find a way to set the tone, get the game going. They did it, I thought, well tonight. Took them a little bit to get fully operational.
Yeah, it did.
They set the tone early. So I think if they can do that again Sunday night, I think they can take it. I really do. And I think they'll control that. And if they can do that early, control that first period, even if they keep the first period close, if they somehow pull away with the lead or have the lead for a while, maybe even leave it tied, that crowd's gone. They don't have any momentum after 20 minutes. I don't think Winnipeg, as passionate as Jets fans are, it's hard to continue it if it's been a slow, grudging first period that I think the Blues can pull off to begin Game 7. And that's just kind of how a Game 7 first period will be. Because it's going to be punch for punch. Every team is going to be nervous. Every team is going to be tense because that's what a Game 7 is. It's every single mistake could cost you your season. And it goes for both sides, both benches. I mean, there's no easy way. No one's sitting back like, okay, it's all right if we, go down or lose this game, whatever. Every play can mean something. So we're going to see that every single second of Game 7. So they got to come out early. They got to get out going. That first 20 minutes is going to mean so much. And if they can control the crowd, even just the slightest amount, they can pull it out Game 7.
I'd like to see them get through whether they control the opening or not, because I actually don't really think they did that today. And Montgomery was kind of saying first 7-8 minutes took them some time, but they stuck with their game to be able to find it almost. And that's kind of the way it feels like. I don't think you're going to ambush them and score a couple of early goals in Game 7, but get through that period of nervous energy, because it certainly happened today where you had it in the first period and they were able to kind of stick to a scoreless game long enough to be able to find their legs and find their, just find their intensity a little bit and know that nerves are a part of Game 7. But honestly, I think if there's one team that's going to be more likely to be on its heels and have a little bit of that nervous energy, it's the Jets and their fans that hope to not have to even be playing this game. If they score early, then it's like, okay, now it's party mode again and we fear nothing. And you don't want to instill that environment there. But I also feel like if with every early hit, or maybe there's they got to go on the penalty kill, and, by playing aggressively, we've seen the Blues draw penalties in this series. Yeah. So that's something that even if you don't score on the power play, shoot the damn puck for one thing. I know Thomas was tweeting at me earlier when we just weren't seeing enough of that aggression in the first period. And once they did find it, it was just clear that it was 4 passes zipped. And then next thing you know, they're setting up that goal chance. That's kind of the way they need to be able to get to it quickly. There might be a lane where the Blues don't have the same level of nervous energy because they're kind of that house money team, right? Nobody wants their season to end, but they just have that attack mentality that's suited them so well in the home games. I see Brandon's comment that fear is the driver in Game 7. Be the nightmare. Don't have fear. Like, I think there's a way for the Blues to be taking advantage of the notion of who could be. Because the Jets should be fearful. They should. I mean, they're President's Trophy winner. They shouldn't have to be, scrapping with the Blues, who are, sub 500 for the first half of the year, whatever it was, in a Game 7. Like, if the Blues can channel that mentality and see that come out of the beginning of their game, this might be the one time that they're finally able to sustain it for 60 minutes in Winnipeg.
I mean, that wraps up perfectly. Be the nightmare, play with fear. Brandon Smith there in the chat putting it perfectly. We've been going for a while. I think, it's getting late. I think we're going to let the suits get on home. But we thank you guys so much for sticking with us here in chat. I know it's been such a fun run, and we at the least, I should say, have at least one more show to go. Hopefully we continue on. It'll be the best thing in the world if we can continue on giving you guys this fantastic content, hopefully sending more people over to join the suits at Enterprise as well. We'll see what happens. Thomas, some final thoughts here?
Yeah, I just want to say appreciate everybody that was in here on the YouTube chat, which there was a ton of you guys. So that is awesome. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, you can be part of the show on our live YouTube chats. Just go to Sports Hub STL on YouTube, hit the subscribe and smack that bell. That way you never miss one. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can listen to us back in your car, on your commute, taking your kids to school, wherever it might be, on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Just hit that follow and that bell. That way you never miss an episode there either. And leave a review.
All right, so who hasn't predicted a score for Game 7? I think Thomas, did you? I haven't yet. Thomas, you gave 3-2, I think.
3-2 and OT.
Yep. Final score. Before we get going, let's get some final score predictions here and also in the chat before we completely get going. Get a quick little wrap up here. Final Game 7 score predictions. Thomas, you said 3-2, right?
OT, yep.
3-2 OT. Brennan, Ethan, you guys'.
Game winner, Jordan Kyrou.
I did. There you go. I didn't before Game 6. I said I wouldn't feel Game 7 for the Blues, but there's no reason they can't. They've made it this far. I don't think they hold Winnipeg to a goal in their building. So I am gonna all series long. I've been waiting for the tight one where they're gonna win a 2-1 game, and I'm just gonna say it's not gonna happen. It's another crazy game, just like the entire crazy series we've seen. 5-3 Blues. It's just gonna be. Hey, when the guy talks first, he steals a score prediction.
Oh, Ethan had to get up for that one.
He wanted 5-3.
Ethan got it yoinked. Yep.
He got up there like he wanted 5-3. Well, he can pick any other numbers. There's lots of numbers.
3-5.
Might have been Ethan's. I don't know.
I'm sticking with 5-3. I've been sitting here waiting.
5-3.
I can hope I can give my score prediction.
I almost didn't. I almost was stubborn and said 2-1, but then I'm like, nah, they're getting. It's going to be the same game we've seen.
I'm confident in this.
Seeing 4-1.
I think 5-3 empty netter. I think that the Blues get the momentum going early, and the Jets are chasing the game. So the crowd is like. The crowd's not going to be out of it. It's just not. It's a Game 7 in Winnipeg. Yeah. They're not going to be out of it. But I think that if the Blues can, and even tonight, Hellebuck had a couple of those saves where it's like we're talking like, oh man, could that be the one that like the Blues are looking back on? They rode the momentum right of that second period late, and we didn't have to worried about that question.
Yep,
that can't be the case for the Blues in Game 7. They have to be able to finish and execute on those opportunities where they have the open nets and take advantage of a shaky Hellebuck. I have 5-3 on an empty netter. Jets constantly chasing the game. Blues multi-goal lead within the first half of the game.
Wow, I don't have that part. I think it's going to be tight, and the Blues emerge late. But I do see the Jets season. Hey, that President's Trophy was nice, but like Monty
one
had
Jets prediction here.
That's all right. There's probably some Jets fans in here.
We had Sparky, who's been joining us all series, who joined us
just like Monty. Just like Monty said tonight about their player taking a dive, the Jets season is taking that nosedive.
Hey, and I just want to flex too. You know, you guys were all. I'm the only one that said Blues in 7.
You
I'm
did.
the only one that said that.
I was going to say that to your
I
point.
was Blues in
So
6.
for anyone said they're jumping ship. They're just flipping. You can get on them for that.
I thought they would win Game 5
this whole time.
I blame the Blues for losing Game 5. I thought this would be the clinch. So it is.
This one 5-2. Benny with Benny standing on his head. That one was my prediction. I was gonna say 5-2. Get one last goal for the Jets with an empty netter, of course. But that's what I'm thinking. 5-2. They get control, and obviously Jets pull the empty net and get super crazy. And then
5-3, no empty netter, just because you guys keep talking about
5-3, no empty. Oh, Brendan's being special.
It does feel like we suck at empty netters. I'm not going to lie.
It kind of does feel that way.
Yeah, a little bit. But, hey, that's hockey, baby. That's the best way to put it. Well, I think we've just about wrapped it up. We got a score prediction. We got all of our keys. We got everything looking forward to Game 7. Sunday, 6 p.m. in Winnipeg. Let's see if the Blues can pull one out in the wretched Arctic North that is Winnipeg, in the hardest arena to play in. That'll be Game 6 once again, or Game 7, once again, Sunday at 7. Reminder, you can catch all post-game shows, Blues, Cardinals, Battlehawks, whole nine, right here on Sports Hub STL YouTube channel after the fact, or if you can, catch it live, please chip into the chat. This is all about the fans, all about you guys. Check out our other content across social media platforms. Obviously, also these shows on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the YouTube channel, Sports Hub STL as well, .com to see some fantastic written content.
I'll get an article up eventually, but I might have to sleep first. We'll see.
Fantastic. Brendan Schaffer, one of our many pitchers, along with Bernie, one of our most popular. But Brendan, a close second, I think, behind Bernie when it comes to the written content. It's a short list, so you don't have to worry about it. But there you go. Either way, this is a fantastic postgame once again. Check out all of our stuff wherever you find it. We'll be back again Sunday night. Once again, thank you to the chat. Thank you to the fellas for hopping on. Brendan Schaffer, Ethan Hannaford, Thomas Welch. I'm Jacob Stanoch. This has been another fantastic Blues Hub post-game show. We will see you Sunday night after Game 7 right here on Sports Hub STL. Let's go Blues!